Welcome to First Tuesdays with Heart. It's Tuesday, July 7th, 2026. First Tuesdays is sponsored by the Heart Peer Support Team in connection with the Resiliency and Justice Center. Heart stands for healing, empowering, and rebuilding together. We're peer support for anyone impacted by any mass violence incident. Real quick introduction to our Heart team. Alice is a licensed professional counselor, certified professional coach. She is the co-director of Heart, and she also facilitates the Route 91 and UNLV support groups. Jackie is a licensed marriage and family therapist. She is the behavioral health program coordinator for the Resiliency and Justice Center. She is one of our very first Heart coaches, and she also facilitates a separate Route 91 and continue the conversation with Heart support groups. And I am Jill Winter. I'm co-director of Heart. I'm a Route 91 survivor, and I co-facilitate the UNLV and continue the conversation with Heart support groups. So we always like to start with a meme or a quote, and we thought this was a good one for today. I was always nervous about wearing this one, my true self, and now it's my favorite. And I want to put the insecurities, unworthiness, and self-doubt in the closet and leave them there. Nancy is a certified master coach. She's a multi-best-selling author with Hay House. She's a podcast host and the founder of Levin Life Coach Academy, a premier training and certification program for aspiring and established coaches. She is absolutely amazing. We had her with us in August of last year talking about boundaries. We do have the link to that recording. We can put it in the chat if you would like to view that. But it was just absolutely amazing. And we might have kind of twisted her arm to have her come back. Through her coaching methodology, Nancy empowers professionals, including those navigating midlife transitions, to become confident, skilled, and impactful certified life coaches who leverage their own life experiences to guide others. Her programs are designed to help coaches build sustainable, purpose-driven businesses that transform lives, including their own.
Thank you so much. I am really honored to be here with you. And we today are going to be looking at the shadow, the light and the dark. And this is in service of reclaiming the parts of you that pain asked you to hide. So I always like to begin when I'm talking about the shadow to simply share what the shadow is, because it sort of sounds a little ominous. And the shadow is a term coined by Swiss psychoanalyst Carl Jung. And it is really a parallel to the unconscious. So our shadow is our unconscious. And so when we talk about shadow work, it's working with our unconscious, ultimately to bring our unconscious conscious. And the shadow, I almost think of the shadow as a place within me, and the place within where we store parts of ourselves that we have disowned or repressed or suppressed, or the parts we reject, or the parts that we fear, the parts of ourselves that we don't want to be and don't think we are, as well as the parts of us that we would like to be but think we're not. And that's a very important piece, because most of us want to, in some way, label the shadow as bad or negative or wrong. But the truth is, all qualities that we possess, every quality exists within us. So any quality we see in someone else exists within us as well. So that's why I shared a moment ago, we're talking about the qualities that we don't want to be and don't think we are. So these can be qualities sort of like needy, lazy, greedy, irresponsible. as well as the qualities we'd like to be, but think we're not. So these are the qualities like courageous, confident, intelligent, generous. And what happens is when we reject these parts of ourselves, we project them out onto others. And so we see the quality in someone else. We see a quality we don't like, and we want to point a finger at the other person. And essentially, what we're doing is three fingers are pointing back at us. Yeah. Or we see a quality that we admire, and we want to be that. And simply by being able to see it in someone else means it exists within us as well. We have just projected it out. So the goal here, I always say the goal of the soul is to be whole. And the truth is we were born whole. I am not one who buys into the belief that even when we're wounded, we're still not broken. We are still whole. We are always whole. We just need to reclaim the wholeness. We need to reclaim the parts of ourselves that we have disowned, the parts of ourselves that we have lost. And, the qualities themselves are charge neutral, even though we want to put a negative or positive on them. But every single quality comes with a gift. Every quality is an asset in some way. And I want to be clear, it doesn't mean that I'm lazy 24/7. It just means that I have the capacity to be lazy, just as I have the capacity to be an overachiever. And that's really what we want to look at, the both and here, instead of the either or, so that we can open up into the fullness of all of who we are instead of segmenting out the parts. And our shadow that starts to store these parts of ourselves that we've disowned becomes really fertile breeding ground for our limiting beliefs and the promises that we make to ourselves, the commitments that we make to ourselves in order to stay safe. Because we all have survival strategies, we all have coping mechanisms that were put in place when we were very, very young. And until we make them conscious, until we bring those unconscious strategies and those unconscious beliefs to the surface, they're going to keep running our lives. And so this sort of combination of the qualities that we've disowned, the beliefs that we've bought into, the beliefs that have been embedded in us, the conclusions we've drawn about ourselves, and these survival strategies, the combo here creates almost like a web that holds us back from our own evolution. And that's why bringing the unconscious conscious is so important. And, we tend to think of healing as a straight line away from darkness toward the light. Get away from the pain, get away from the anger, away from the fear, away from the numbness, the parts of us that don't feel presentable. Walk toward the light and don't look back. But we also know that healing is not linear. There is an ebb and a flow, and there's no timeline for healing. Healing happens in phases and in stages. And I like to bring in the metaphor of the moon here, because if we think about phases, the moon really exemplifies that for us, the phases throughout the month, and that it runs a course, but it continues to return. It's never complete in the shifting of phase to phase. So there's a consistent ebb and flow. And I like to think about the moon in terms of shadow and in terms of wholeness, because the moon itself is always whole. No matter how much of the moon we see or don't see, the moon itself is whole. So we might see a crescent, we might see a sliver, we might see a half, we might see a full moon. It's not that the rest of the moon has disappeared. It's just turned away from the sun for a while. So the moon is in a consistent experience of concealing parts of itself and revealing parts of itself. And we do the exact same thing. We are exactly like the moon. We are always whole, and yet we expend energy concealing parts of ourselves, consciously or unconsciously, and revealing parts of ourselves. Most often, we are concealing parts of ourselves out of fear or guilt or shame or pain. The invitation is not to just walk around in an exposed, revealed state 24/7. We still get to conceal. We still get to be discerning about who we show what. But the difference is we're doing it from a conscious place. We're not doing it from that shame or fear. We're doing it from a place of knowing our wholeness, of being in that integrity of wholeness. So the parts of you that feel dark right now, the anger, the vigilance, the mistrust, the numbness, the part of you that leans on avoidant strategies, the part that might isolate. Those parts didn't replace the rest of you. So those parts are not the whole story. And the parts of you that used to perhaps feel easier or light, your humor, your softness, your trust, your ease with others, those didn't vanish either. They're still there. They're on the other side of the orbit, perhaps. And so healing isn't about cutting off the shadow and only living in the light. It's about coming back into relationship with all of it, because it's all you, and it always has been. And what we're exploring here together today is not walking away from the parts of yourself that pain put into the shadows, but really getting curious about what they might be holding for you. So when hard experiences push certain parts of us into hiding, it's the most natural expression of self-preservation. It's not a character flaw. It is a survival strategy, and it works. And so after something overwhelms the system, decisions are made fairly quickly about what it's safe to feel and show and what it isn't. And so if anger felt dangerous, like it might overwhelm you or push people away or make you a target, some part of you learned to bury that anger. If grief felt like it had no bottom, some part of you learned to seal it off so you could keep functioning. If trust got broken, some part of you learned that staying guarded was safer than staying open. And if you felt powerless in a moment you couldn't control, some part of you may have gone quiet or gone numb or started scanning every room that you walk into. And again, this isn't a weakness. This is not a character flaw. This is intelligence. This is deep intelligence. And that part of you was doing its job, protecting the whole system by taking something volatile and putting it somewhere it couldn't hurt you or anybody else. And so the problem isn't the self-preservation. What happens next is that we start to believe that the parts of ourselves that we hide are bad. And we think that the parts of ourselves that we hide are bad, not only the parts that we don't want to be, but also the parts we would like to be. We judge them. And we hide them. And something happens where we begin to overcompensate. So if we are hiding our anger, we're going to hide it so deep and we're going to overcompensate with being overly kind. If we are hiding lazy, like I said earlier, we're going to overcompensate by being a workaholic. Whatever we're hiding, we automatically overcompensate so that we don't have to see it in ourselves. And what ends up happening is that as we overcompensate, we also go into that self-judgment. And once we hide it and once we overcompensate, it becomes very easy to forget that it's even a part of us, and we stop being curious about it. And we shut that door and hope that it stays shut, which takes an enormous amount of energy. So we're expending energy hiding instead of expending energy that could go toward living. And so the invitation for today is, if you're willing to look at what if the part of you living behind that closed door isn't the enemy or isn't bad or isn't a part of you that you need to hide? What if you got curious about the parts that you've relinquished to the shadow? And what if those parts of you are actually carrying something vital? What if they are carrying something you need? Because ultimately, the reframe here is that the shadow is a buried treasure. And when we can sort of dip into the shadow and pull the parts of ourselves out that we've been hiding, we actually have the opportunity to tap into their power that has previously gone under-resourced. So there's a whole resource of untapped power we have not yet accessed. And that's why curiosity is our friend here. So, if we look at a few, I would sort of say common feelings, qualities, things that we push down, things that we relegate to the shadow. As I mentioned earlier, anger can often be a big one. We reject anger. We fear our anger. Many of us learn to bury our anger. because anger felt too big or too scary or too dangerous. But underneath most buried anger is something that's really worth protecting. And it's a sense of a clear boundary. It's a sense of a no that matters. And the anger that we bury might be a guarding of our own sense of justice. And it can be the same instinct that can help us say, that's not okay, when we're looking at our own boundaries. And as Jill mentioned, I did last year, I did a whole talk on boundaries, and there's such an intersection here when we're looking at our boundaries and the qualities we disown, because so many of us give our power away. We believe that that we don't have the capacity to know our own limits and hold our own boundaries. And as I shared last time, and I'll share again here, when we're dealing with violence, boundaries can get complicated because, first and foremost, our boundaries are ours to identify, to know our own limits, to hold. And yet, when we are in a circumstance where that is not possible, we can question what power we actually do have at all. And so we don't want to conflate a heightened situation with being powerless in every area of our life. And I think that's a really important piece to remember. We also look at the ways that we express or don't express fear and hypervigilance. You know, if you are the person who is constantly scanning, who startles easily, who doesn't relax, it's exhausting. And it's easy to hate that part of yourself. It's easy to want that part of yourself to mellow out or go away. But that same vigilance is also a kind of devotion. It's a part of you that decided after everything that it was going to make sure you're not caught off guard. It's the way that you show up in self-protection. And underneath the exhaustion is a loyalty. It is a loyalty to self. That hypervigilance has one job, which is to keep you alive. And you come by it honestly. We all do. So we have to also talk about grief here. Grief is misunderstood. Just like healing, grief is not linear. There are the 5 stages of grieving. They're not linear. They are just like the phases of the moon. They're on rotation. And some of us seal our grief away because it feels bottomless. But we feel like if we let one tear out, we won't be able to stop. And we also are, for those of us who relate to being people pleasers or peacekeepers or conflict avoiders, those of us who are codependent, those of us who are other referenced, there can be a friction coming at us from others around our own grief. Grief is big. And it's big because love is big. And so we're capable of experience our grief in its fullness because we've been capable of experiencing our love in our fullness. And the size of the grief that we want to avoid is a direct measure of that size and capacity we have to love and connect. And that's tremendous evidence of your heart. We have to also look at numbness or disconnection. We have to look at what is the avoidant strategy. What is this so-called drug of choice? Whether it is food, alcohol, other kinds of substances, work, exercise, shopping, scrolling, whatever we do when we don't want to feel or deal. So we all have that drug of choice. We all have the thing that we go to when we don't want to feel or deal. And the invitation here is to get curious, like I mentioned earlier. The next time you feel the impulse to tune out like that, to numb out, or that you're reaching for the fridge when you're not even hungry, or you're just defaulting to work because it's a place you feel safe, or your late night online shopping to avoid feeling or dealing, ask yourself, take the pause. What is it I don't want to feel and deal with right now? It could take 30 seconds. Just pause. Become conscious enough to catch yourself in the act of avoiding. And then just simply ask yourself, what is it I don't want to feel or deal with right now? You could journal. You could meditate. You could also just take 30 seconds to answer the question and see if you still want the thing that you're reaching for. When we go numb, it's very hard to feel much of anything. And that pause and that curiosity and that question becomes a pattern interrupt. It's a circuit breaker. And underneath that numbness, a very tender part of you that felt too much is protecting the system from that kind of overload. And again, we come by each of these honestly, each of these sort of self-preservation, each of these survival strategies, we come by them honestly so that we can navigate. And then I thought I would also bring in trust or mistrust, because it may feel challenging to really let people in. And that guardedness can look like coldness from the outside. It can be misinterpreted and can feel like isolation on the inside. But underneath it is discernment. The part of you that's gotten very good at reading a room. The part of you that's got very good at noticing what is true and what is not true. And that's not the same as being unable to trust ever again. It's a skill that you continue to sharpen, to hone. And it's something available to you once you're ready to choose who you are willing to trust. And it needs to begin with self-trust. So when we are feeling mistrustful of others, we need to actually turn the antenna inward to ask, where am I still not trusting myself? In what ways am I still mistrusting myself? And so again, none of these are flaws. Anger is guarding a boundary. Vigilance is guarding your safety. Grief is guarding your love. Numbness is guarding your nervous system. Mistrust is guarding your discernment. And every part of you that you pushed into hiding was trying to protect something valuable. And that's buried treasure. Not the pain itself, but what the pain was trying to protect when it asked you to hide. And it doesn't mean that everything about how these parts show up is comfortable, or that you have to keep operating exactly as they are right now. It just means that the raw material underneath is available to you. It's yours. And when you are willing to reach in and harness it, you can work with it instead of walling off from it, instead of walling off from these parts of yourself. So I'm going to offer you a few questions here just to consider for yourself. And if you can just sort of sit with them, you can write down what comes to you. You can, of course, come back to the replay to spend more time with the questions. And to really just take a moment to be honest with yourself about what resonates and what doesn't. And to bravely tell yourself the truth. I loved the little cartoon, Jill, that you showed at the beginning. I loved it because it's so true. We expend all this energy hiding the truth of who we are. We package ourselves to be palatable to people around us. And the truth of the matter is, I have experienced this in my own life, and I've witnessed this in hundreds of clients I've coached. It seems so counterintuitive, but when we take off the mask, when we take off the armor, when we take off the cape, when we reveal ourselves to those we may fear revealing ourselves to, the people who are safe for us to reveal ourselves to, when we do that, the amount of energy that returns is extraordinary. We don't realize how much energy we're expending bracing ourselves, holding ourselves, concealing ourselves, masking ourselves, numbing ourselves. And so just notice for yourself what part you've been keeping in the dark. What part of you have you been pushing down? Have you been repressing? Have you been hiding? Have you been not allowing airtime? What part have you been denying? It could be a feeling. It could be a trait, a quality, an instinct that you've decided isn't allowed to be part of you anymore. And once you are able to identify that part, if that part of you could speak, what what might it say it has been trying to protect? And what has it been trying to protect you from? And what would it feel like to greet that part of you with curiosity instead of shame, even just for a few minutes? If you could actually let it out into the open air and not feel compelled to hide it, not feel compelled to push it down. And if you got curious about this quality or this part of you, what gift does it offer? How can it be an asset for you in your life so that you no longer have to expend that energy hiding it? And then I also invite you to look at what quality, what part of yourself did you used to celebrate? Did you used to shine with that dimmed down? What part of yourself do you miss? And where might it still be living in you, even if it's living more quietly or more imperceptibly? And what would it look like to invite that part of you to play? What would it look like to give yourself that kind of permission? So again, this isn't about getting rid of anything. This is about, I think about it like this is the great return. It's the great reclamation. We're not trying to force the shadow into the light before it's ready. And we're not trying to shame the light for existing either. We're just practicing turning toward all of you the same way you would turn toward a friend who's been carrying something heavy alone. Can you give yourself that same grace? You are not simply a sliver of the moon. You were never only your pain. You are the whole moon all the time. And you have access to your wholeness. Sometimes you can contact it and sometimes not, but you're never missing any part of yourself. Nothing is gone. It's all here. So whatever you've hidden is your way of protection. And you get to decide in your own time how to meet the parts of you that you haven't wanted to be with. And you get to meet the parts of you that have gone underground because they were too shiny.
Yes.
I often think about Socrates, a quote of his that says, "The unexamined life is not worth living." And I it can be looked at as a harsh statement, but I also look at it as, to me, the greatest gift we have in being here alive is to look forward, is to embrace movement, to take action, to make choices, to live, and to live from a place where we are consistently showing up to examine parts of ourselves so that we can continue reclaiming these lost pieces and restore ourselves to our own wholeness. So that's what I want to share with you this evening. And I invite you into really getting curious about all parts of yourself and welcoming them back.
Thank you, Nancy. That was absolutely wonderful and definitely resonated with me in so many ways. That was amazing.
I'm so glad.
Does anybody have any questions or comments for Nancy? I know it was a lot of information to take in, but also incredibly important information too.
I really like the part you talked about grief.
Yeah.
About, with grief comes that much love.
Yeah.
I really felt that so
I'm
much.
so glad. Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah.
Mom's death anniversary is coming up in a couple weeks, and it's getting easier. As Jill, I mean, I couldn't even talk about her without crying, and it's getting better.
I'm glad. Yes.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Anyone else?
Yes, it's Cindy. Hello. Oh my gosh, Nancy, I just loved every bit of your talk. Um, it speaks to me. I hear IFS, internal family systems.
Yes.
I heard some Carl Jung,
Yep.
the shadow. Just oh, I love how you present the information. I love how you speak. It just was wonderful. I enjoyed every minute of it. And how do I get more of you? What do you do? I know you write books.
I do.
Do you,
I write books. I have a podcast.
yes, yes, yes. That's what I'm hoping you say.
Yes, I have a podcast. I have nearly 300 episodes, so there's lots to listen to.
Wonderful.
Yes, yes. So, thank you. I really appreciate that very much.
So where do I find you on the podcast?
If very easy, nancylevin.com.
Okay,
Very
great.
easy. Yes.
Oh, wonderful.
Thank
you so
Cindy.
much.
Of course.
Cindy, I've read a few of Nancy's books and they're so relatable because she's honest about herself.
Yes.
She's been through all of this and she speaks to that. So it's incredibly relatable. And the podcast too is just it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I can't wait to dig in for the podcast.
Good. Oh, good.
Absolutely.
I'm very glad. And I love that you picked up the IFS and all the pieces. Yep. It's all connected. Shadow and IFS are really sisters. Same thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just see what Molly put in the chat. I feel like I had permission to be vulnerable with myself. It's hard to not be judgmental about yourself. Molly, that the permission piece is so big. And the more you can give yourself permission to be vulnerable and to give yourself grace, to give yourself the compassion, and to release the judgment. Yeah.
I've been doing neurofeedback and slowly unpacking a lot from the 50 plus years of my life
Yeah.
and realizing why those walls were so high and so strong. And I feel like it's unpacking, like, I've moved to a completely different place and I'm unpacking all that stuff that caused me to go into that closet.
Yeah. I mean, and again, I know I said it a few times, but I share again, we come by it honestly. These parts of ourselves go into hiding when we're under the age of 10. These shadow beliefs, these limiting beliefs, the conclusions we draw about ourselves happen so young. This packaging of ourselves happens so young that we're not even really fully aware of it, and yet it's driving the bus of our lives. And so I do believe that this work is profound for healing and for really truly being able to show up with self-knowledge and self-love.
Yeah. A lot of the aha moments have come from, single digit age. So it's
Yeah,
so true that it
absolutely.
happened at a very, very
Yep. Yep. Yep.
early time.
Yeah.
So we had another
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
Someone asked if I ever found out why my event happened and if I was still looking for information. I feel like my information seeking out of it was out of anger or justice. I told them I gave up. I was tired of getting upset about it. Would that have been a shadow?
It 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 could have been a shadow in terms of what was unknowable to you. It also could be a way in which again, if we go back to sort of the self-preservation piece, it's interesting that the language you use. I told them I gave up. I was tired of getting upset about it. I might say that you gave yourself permission to come out from under the weight of the experience. To me, I don't know that I would say it was giving up as much as a way to give yourself freedom. And so the other thing I will also say, uh,
Right.
the other thing I'll also say is that um, we, the word surrender gets a bad rap because most of us relate to it as giving up or giving in or throwing in the towel or waving the white flag. But I really look at surrender as releasing our willful stronghold on needing anyone or anything to be any certain way. And so if we look at it from that place, there was a release to me in the letting go of the needing to know why. In my experience, and it's why when I'm training coaches, I will always say asking why will never bring about a satisfying answer for anybody. It's not about the why. And so when we can release ourselves, when we can give ourselves permission to surrender to that needing something to be a certain way or needing to understand, we actually can free ourselves in a bigger way.
Yeah. I know, kind of adding to this, after my incident, I felt like I needed to know why.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent a lot of time, looking at all the stuff that was online, and somebody asked me, what will that change?
Right.
And I had a comment, and then it was like, okay, Jill, hush, let's think. And it dawned on me, it's not going to change anything, and it would never make sense because my brain doesn't think like that. So instead of wasting my energy on something that wasn't going to change anything, I was spending my energy on my healing. And that was huge. That was a huge revelation for me.
I mean, that's a major choice. It's a major choice. Yeah. Beautiful.
Does anybody else have any questions? Alice or Jackie, anything?
Just,
Nancy,
oh,
oh,
go
sorry.
ahead, Alice.
Nancy, you were saying, you were suggesting that we get curious about what it is that we are avoiding. And so it's a kind of like a what question rather than a why question.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. A
Okay.
what, exactly. A what versus a why. Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
Perfect. It's been great.
Thank you.
Jackie, take it
I'm so
away.
glad.
Yeah, I was just going to say I really appreciated what you had to say about anger. Um, Anger always gets a bad rep. Particularly, there's a gender difference as well in our ability to even be angry or express anger. And, I often, and in working with folks, try to talk about anger. It can be very motivating. I'll tell you, some of the times I'm the most motivated, I'm, got a fire under me. I would also say that it tells us something is wrong, something is not right with the world, and that anger is only a problem when it hurts others or ourselves. And I just think we need to pay. I love the idea of embracing and what's underneath this. What is this guarding?
Yeah.
Well, something happened in our lives that
That's right.
was wrong, and so I'm mad about it. The question is, where do you channel it? Where do you direct it? So I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I think that part of why anger gets the bad rap is that those of us who are most afraid of anger have not experienced anger dissipating. We have experienced anger as something that metastasizes and something that is sort of thrust upon us.
Yeah. Or
There's
only when anger leads to someone being hurt emotionally, physically, psychologically. Yeah.
There's something for, if anyone knows, the great teacher Carolyn Mace, she has a quote that says, the reason we don't heal is we want someone else to feel pain. So when the anger is vengeful,
yes,
it is.
Yeah.
If we want someone else to, if we want someone else to feel the pain, we are never going to heal.
Yeah.
So that is part of why we have to metabolize our anger.
Yeah. We see that at the Resiliency Center. We work with mass violence, but also victims of crime, individual type of crime. And we talk about with folks that if you put your healing in, like, for example, the criminal justice system, you will never be satisfied.
That's right. No.
Because there is no, like Jill said, there is no reason why that will explain, because my brain, your brain, thank heavens, doesn't work that way.
Right.
And there's no punishment that is enough.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Danelle, I'll get to you in just a second. We had another person put the quote, "Unexamined life is not worth living," has really touched me, especially being in the mid stage of life. It's a very powerful quote. Miss Danelle,
Hi.
hello.
No, I just wanted to say I could listen to you talk all day, night long. Just everything just oh, it's like it's like being in a cradle that's being rocked. It's so soothing and um
Thank you.
just can't think of the words and stuff. Yeah, but I
Just
wanted to say the what you said about big grief is just big love. It's kind of like that other quote that says that gosh, what is it? It's something to the effect of that grief is something about like with where love has no place to go or something like that. It's like when you lose somebody, you're grieving over them, but it's just that love can't find where to go now because you
Yeah, I
can't.
mean, that's exactly it. I mean, grief, I do think that grief is sort of, in a way, it's almost like uh, disenfranchised love. It's just love
Yeah,
that doesn't know where to go. So we feel it as grief. And grief isn't anything to fear.
right. The other thing that I wanted to say was I don't. I'm still processing so many things at once, and my brain's all over the place. But there was a moment last year when I was in the on-site program,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't remember exactly what was going on, but I just know that we were talking about something, and I told myself in my head, "I love you, Danelle," and I had never said that to myself, and it was just the most like if I hadn't been sitting down, I would have been on my knees because it was just it brought me to my knees because I had never acknowledged that to myself before. And it was one of those moments where it's like you realize that, if you don't love yourself, any other love is not really gonna make it better.
It's
So that was
really,
kind of
really,
like coming out from under for me.
thank you for sharing that. It's really true. We think that we're going to love ourselves if someone else loves us. But I
Right.
actually think it's the other way around. When we love ourselves, we become a magnet. We have Velcro for someone
And
else.
that's my issue for so many people in my life have left. And I feel like, oh, if I just do one more thing, they'll stay. And so
Yeah.
it put me in a position of having, a real father that wasn't present, a stepfather that, abused me. And so it just felt like I was not lovable. I wasn't worth being loved. So I never gave that to myself.
Thank you for sharing that. And I'm so glad you're giving it to yourself now.
Danelle, I definitely think you're not alone with that. I think it's very hard for people to think about "I love me."
Yeah.
It's sad, and that's something that we all need to do. And we're our own worst critics. We're so judgmental about ourselves, and we say things to ourselves that we would never in a million years say to our friends. So that's something
Right.
I've been working on is like I'll catch myself. I'm like, okay, would I say this to Janelle?
Right.
And
Right.
the answer is, oh goodness, no.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think
So
it's part because we live in a society too where it's just like, I mean, I feel like the two biggest words said that are so not genuine is I'm sorry. Like people say I'm sorry all the time and they really don't. They're really not sorry. They don't mean it. They're just saying it. And so, like, for me, saying I love you is always going to either precede or be shown with action. Yes. But it's hard
Yes.
for me sometimes when I get the I love you, but I don't get any action behind it. And
Yeah.
I know that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't, but sometimes it feels like different.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you didn't see, Danelle, they have a clapping emoji in the chat when you mentioned that you said I love you to yourself. So Jackie said, trust is your behavior matching your words. And that's so incredibly true. And I love the shadow is a buried treasure. That's one thing I'm going to remember. And just the phases of the moon, because we don't always shine bright, but the moon doesn't either. But we're still, it's still within us. It's just a matter of working to get it out.
Yep. Yep.
That really resonated with me.
I'm so glad.
I have read Setting Boundaries Will Set You Free and Jump in Your Life Will Appear. They are amazing. And if you do it on audio, Nancy reads it so you can hear her voice. And I also recently got these two.
Oh my goodness. I'm so glad. I'm so
So,
glad you got those two because those two are really, those are interactive. They're journals, they're workbooks. They really support you in getting, rolling up your sleeves.
yeah, no, I just, you are so relatable. And that's why, I mean, I so appreciate you coming on. I know you have an incredibly busy schedule, and the fact that you take the time with us is so meaningful to us. So thank you so much. And
My honor.
absolutely. And like Nancy said earlier, she does have the podcast. You can find everything on nancylevin.com, also on Amazon, Audible. And Hay House now has an app that I absolutely love, and I can listen to Nancy's stuff on there. It's called the Empower You app.
Yes.
And
Yep.
it is, I want to say it's about $50 a year, something like that. And all of the Hay House authors are available to listen to their books on it. And it's been an amazing source for me because Hay House, and Nancy can probably explain it better. To me, it's not the self-help, it's the self-improvement
That's
books.
right. Yes.
And they have some amazing, amazing, amazing authors. So I would definitely, if that's within your budget, I would encourage you to take a look at that because there's just so many different things. There's meditations, there's the books, there's tons of stuff on there, and I love it. So, um, just a little plug. So,
I love that.
alrighty. So we want to remind you guys about continuing the conversation with Heart. It is a support group for anyone impacted by any mass violence incident. It's the third Tuesday of each month at 4 o'clock Pacific and the fourth Thursday of each month at 6 o'clock Pacific. And this month it will actually be the fifth Thursday of the month because the third Tuesday and the fourth Thursday fall in the same month. And just want to remind you guys that the Resiliency and Justice Center offers integrated services programs that are available for free to anybody impacted by any mass violence incident. Most of them are online. The only one that's in person is the equine therapy demonstration. If you happen to be visiting Vegas or live there, please feel free to go if they're offering it during the time you're there. But we have the Heart Peer Support, which is one-on-one peer support with a trained mentor who's also been impacted by mass violence. First Tuesdays with Heart, our support group. There's also a weekly mindfulness and meditation that's amazing. Trauma recovery yoga is all on Zoom, and meditative art, which I now facilitate. I don't know how that happened, but it's a combination of neuro art and a little bit of Zentangle and things like that. So we'd encourage you guys to look at the calendar and register if that sounds interesting. For more information, that's resiliencyanjustice.org/calendar. And that's the wrong thing. But we have, for additional support to be requested to be paired with a heart mentor, you can go to Resiliency and Justice Center /heart. You'll talk to either Alice or me initially, and we'll pair you with a trained mentor. The disaster distress helpline is wonderful. It was created for people impacted by both natural and man-made disasters. So I know Nancy lives in Colorado. There's a lot of fires going on right now. That would be something for if you know anybody impacted by that, other storms, as well as mass violence. The National Mass Violence Center has an amazing website. Their virtual resiliency center is absolutely amazing. Lots of information for us. And the Transcend NMVC app is done by the National Mass Violence Center for people impacted by mass violence. If you go to look it up, please make sure you put NMVC in Transcend because there are a couple of other Transcend apps. And then if you haven't joined our First Tasters with Heart Facebook page, we'd encourage you to do so. That would be wonderful. We have all the information about the upcoming programs and everything like that. Our next First Tuesdays is going to be Tuesday, August 4th. We have Kelly Heckman, who is a mass violence survivor and also LCSW, who will be talking to us on the anniversary effect. So we would love to have you guys join and hear from her as well. She's got the different perspective from being both the clinical social worker and a mass shooting survivor. So we just want to thank Nancy so much. We really, really, really appreciate you joining us. It was absolutely wonderful. There's a lot of people coming. Thank you in the chat. Oh, and I actually just posted the link
Oh,
to last year's
yes. Good.
program that Nancy did, and I would encourage you guys to listen to that. I know I've gone back a couple times, and I'm going to go back again and listen to her podcasts. Her books are amazing, like I said, and just really appreciate you and the time you've taken with us.
My pleasure, my honor. I'm grateful to be here with you, and I'm so yeah, just it's wonderful work that you do, and I love that there is this place to come together.
Thank you.
So thank you for including
Thank you
me.
so much.
Nancy, thank you. Appreciate it.